There's a single second at the end of a World Cup final where two nations feel the exact opposite thing at the exact same moment. One side of the planet detonates. The other goes completely silent. That second happened on July the 19th in New York, and the footage coming out of both countries since is some of the rawest you will ever see in this sport. But what happened after the whistle turned a beautiful night into something much uglier, and that's the part we need to talk about. So let's go through all of it. The match, the celebrations, the heartbreak, and the fallout that FIFA is still investigating. First, how it actually happened. Spain beat Argentina 1-0 after extra time, and the way that goal arrived tells you everything about how brutal the night was for Argentina. Spain took shot after shot after shot. 20 of them. And they could not score, because Emiliano Martinez was producing one of the great goalkeeping performances in the history of the fixture. 11 saves in a World Cup final. 11. He was single-handedly keeping his country in a match they were being outplayed in. Then, in the opening seconds of the second period of extra time, two substitutes finished it. Nico Williams headed the ball down into the path of Ferran Torres, and Torres struck it left-footed past Martinez. One goal. That was the entire margin between a World Cup and nothing. And here's the statistic that hurts most on the Argentine side. Across the whole final, Argentina did not register a single shot on target. Not one. The reigning champions could not force the opposing goalkeeper into a single save across 120 minutes. Spain finished the tournament having scored 14 and conceded 1. It was, by any measure, a deserved title. Their second. Now, the two reactions. Start with Spain, because the celebrations there have been extraordinary. Whole plazas full of people going up at once. Flags everywhere. Strangers embracing. A generation of Spanish fans who grew up hearing about 2010 finally getting one of their own, and a squad young enough that this feels like a beginning rather than a peak. Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, Ferran Torres. This is not a team at the end of something. And there's a particular quality to the Spanish celebration that's worth noticing. It isn't relief. It's joy. They played the best football in the tournament and they know it. That's a very different feeling to scraping a trophy. And then Argentina. The footage from the other side is difficult to watch, and I say that as someone with no dog in the fight. You see people standing completely still while everything moves around them. Grown men sobbing openly, held up by friends. Whole families sitting down on the pavement because their legs won't hold them. Flags that were being waved an hour earlier now being used to cover faces. And you have to understand what was riding on it. Argentina arrived as champions with Messi in what everybody understood was his final World Cup. Millions of people had arranged their entire lives around the possibility of that ending perfectly. Instead, Messi was held scoreless, the team didn't manage a shot on target, and it was over. That's not a bad afternoon. For a lot of people watching, that was the last chapter of something they'd followed since childhood. And spare a thought for Martinez specifically. 11 saves. The performance of his life. And he still finished the night on the losing side, beaten by the one shot he couldn't reach. There is no crueler position in sport. But then the whistle went, and things went wrong. As Spain went up to lift the trophy, the Argentina players turned their backs. And in the chaos that followed, a physical confrontation broke out on the pitch. According to reports, Leandro Paredes went after Spain's Eric Garcia. Nahuel Molina, Thiago Almada, and assistant coach Roberto Ayala also appeared to be involved. FIFA opened an investigation. That investigation is still ongoing. Now, before anyone jumps, some context matters here. The final whistle of a World Cup final is the most emotionally extreme environment in the entire sport. One group of men has just achieved the thing they've wanted since they were children. The other has just had it taken away in front of hundreds of millions of people. People do things in that minute they'd never do in any other. That's context. It isn't a defense, and Spain's manager made that very clear. Luis de la Fuente did not hold back. Asked about the behavior of the Argentina players, the Spain boss said this: "At the time, I didn't realize it, I was celebrating. But whatever the case, it is intolerable, unacceptable. We must not accept it. Players of that level who have an excellent coach must have felt as bad as we did seeing those reactions. It is inadmissible." Read that again because managers are trained to defuse. They say emotions were high. They say it's football. They do not say we must not accept it. When a manager reaches for language that's strong, something crossed a line. And notice the detail he included. He didn't even see it live, because he was celebrating. He found out afterwards. Which means that wasn't a heat-of-the-moment reaction. He had time to cool down and gave that answer anyway. And then it got stranger. Because a letter emerged. A private message from FIFA President Gianni Infantino to the president of the Argentine Football Association, first reported in Argentina and subsequently verified by the Daily Mail. In it, Infantino congratulated Argentina on the silver medal, described the tournament as an unforgettable celebration of football, and then wrote that these results are always the fruit of constant work, professionalism, and attention to detail. Professionalism. Written the day after a brawl that FIFA's own disciplinary process is currently examining. The letter itself opens with the word, yesterday, Sunday, July 19th, so it was composed within 24 hours of the confrontation, when those clips were already everywhere. So where does that leave the fans? That's the genuinely sad part of this, and it's worth saying plainly. The people crying in the streets of Buenos Aires didn't turn their backs on anyone. They didn't confront an opponent. They're teachers and drivers and shopkeepers who took the day off and dared to hope, and now their heartbreak is tangled up in a disciplinary story they had nothing to do with. And there's been a lot of mockery online, people treating Argentina's defeat as some kind of justice because of the controversies that have followed that squad. Rivalry is rivalry, that's part of football. But there's a difference between rivalry and laughing at an entire country's grief. Whatever you think about what happened on the pitch, the fans in those clips didn't do it. Meanwhile, Spain's supporters got the cleanest possible version of the story. Best team, best football, deserved winners, a squad young enough to do it again. They will remember July the 19th for the rest of their lives. 2 nations, 1 second, opposite emotions. And an investigation still running that could yet decide how this final is remembered. So tell me where you land. Was Spain's win the story? Or has the fallout overshadowed it completely? And is FIFA going to do anything real about what happened after that whistle? Or does it quietly disappear like these things usually do? Comments below, I read them all. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the moment that investigation reports, we'll be covering it.